15 accountants collapsed, but the delivery girl rhymed a shocking truth to the millionaire at 3 a.m. In the small hours of the night, dread seeped into the damp air like fog rolling off the sea. A strange stillness blanketed the city, broken only by the eerie wails of emergency sirens that sliced through the silence. It was 3 a.m. when chaos struck at the prestigious finance firm, Eagle Tuck. 15 accountants dropped dead where they sat, their bodies lifeless but frozen in a shocking tableau. Papers scattered around them fluttered like frightened birds, while their colleagues stood paralyzed, mouths agape, eyes wide with horror. What could cause such a disturbing scene? As the clock ticked, the insistent pulse of unease grew heavier in the room. The fluorescent lights flickered inconsistently, casting a harsh glow over the startled expressions, illuminating the sheer panic as frantic whispers filled the air. Nobody understood what had happened, but the sense of urgency was palpable. Every heart raced, every breath caught in throats tightly knotted with confusion. An unsettling chill wrapped around them, growing thicker as time crawled on. But it was in the eye of this storm that a striking figure appeared. Rosa, the delivery girl, burst through the office door with an air of unbothered confidence that blended oddly with the chaos. She was drenched from the rain, her wild hair plastered to her forehead, and a stack of boxes piled high under her arm. Then, in an instant, she shifted from transporting mundane deliveries to delivering something much more profound. As observers stared in disbelief, Rosa began to rhyme, her voice a sharp contrast against the backdrop of terror. 15 souls in a ghostly trance, numbers crunched, but no second chance. The room tensed as curses were uttered, but no one could tear away from the strange spectacle. Her words fell from her lips with a chilling precision, unveiling secrets that twisted through the worried minds of her audience. Each syllable turned into a knife, cutting through denial and igniting a collective curiosity. As those accountants lay still, questions began to race. Why were they there at such an ungodly hour? What were they working on that had led to this horror? Before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button, it really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. As the last rhyme echoed, an oppressive silence took hold. Eyes darted between Rosa and the deceased, an unsettling wave of realization creeping in. What knowledge did she possess that linked her to the fallen accountants? And what truth, if any, would unravel next? The answer lay between those rhymes, just waiting to be uncovered in the shadows of that chilling office. As the whispers around the room intensified, Rosa stood at the center, her heart thundering in her chest like a war drum. A gain of breath, a surge of adrenaline. She had not anticipated bursting into a scene drenched in death, but here she was, with words teetering on the edge of chaos. "Did you check the accounts?" echoed a voice from the back, cutting through the noise. Mike, a frantic junior analyst, struggled to gather his wits, clutching a stack of charts that now seemed useless in the wake of tragedy. Rosa shook her head. "Accounts can lie, but the truth?" She pointed at the still bodies with a shaky finger. "The truth never lies. It's all penned right here." Her eyes burned with determination, challenging disbelief amidst the terror. Just then, the emergency lights flickered back to life, and the gravity of the scene intensified. Shadows danced through the office, elongating the outlines of the lifeless figures. No longer frozen in shock, one of the senior partners, a balding man named Trent, moved away from the crowd. Sweat glistened on his forehead, and despite the cold chill encasing everyone, he radiated heat. "What do you mean, Rosa? Why are you here?" "Deliveries don't happen at 3 in the morning. Because someone needs to finish what you all started," she declared, voice rising over the tension. "You were crunching numbers that shouldn't be crunched. Some numbers don't just add up." Gasps spread like wildfire through the group. It clicked in their minds, the restless nights spent poring over projects that had always felt off, the sudden rejections from investors, the strange discrepancies in the ledgers. "What do you know?" yelled a panicked intern, barely managing to keep his composure. "Tell us what's going on. Please." Rosa stepped forward. Her eyes scanned the petrified faces, pleading for clarity. "I've seen the markings. I've delivered packages to the wrong addresses on purpose. I thought it was just a prank until I noticed the patterns, the places, the dates, they all point to something dark." "Stop it." Trent's voice cracked. Frustration twisted into fear. "You don't know what you're talking about, delivery girl." "Wrong," Rosa interrupted, her voice sharp. "If you think your spreadsheets were just simple calculations, you're mistaken. They hold secrets, buried secrets that could ruin lives." Fists clenched, eyes widening, people began to connect the dots. Panic morphed into disbelief. Rosa's rhymes lingered in their ears like an ominous tune, painting images of ruin. That unease spread through the room, igniting the question, could they really be the architects of their own demise? "Get the police," Mike shouted suddenly, but before the words landed, a siren wailed loudly nearby, cutting him short. Rosa stepped back, her stomach churning as the realization bloomed like weeds. "They're coming for us," she murmured. "It's not just the accountants, they're watching you. You need to find out who's behind this before it's too late." As panic surged, a loud crash echoed from the back room, breaking the tension with a shudder. Paralyzed with fear, all heads turned toward the noise. The office door swung wide, revealing a dark figure tangled in shadows, his silhouette stark against the flickering lights. "What did you say?" he sneered, stepping into the light, revealing a face that sent shocks through the crowd like electric cables. Rosa could barely breathe as realization washed over her. "The truth is closer than you think," she gasped, her words hanging in the air. The doors to their fate cracked open. Would they uncover the dark conspiracies behind the office walls, or were they already too late? The air thickened with dread as the figure took another step forward, and they all knew one thing: the clock was ticking. The figure leaned forward, the darkness retreating slightly to unveil a face that was all too familiar to them. It was Mark, the firm's top financial officer, but now he looked rougher, more sinister, like a ghost caught between life and death. Fear rippled through the group, murmurs knocking against the walls like errant whispers. "Mark?" Mike stuttered, his voice a tremor. "What happened to you?" He let out a low, chilling laugh. "Oh, it's not what happened to me. It's what I've become." He stepped further into the light, revealing blood on his shirt. "And it's what you're about to become too if you don't play along." Rosa's stomach twisted. She was at a crossroads of horror and urgency. "You're behind this. You orchestrated all of it? Orchestrated?" "No, sweetheart," he mocked, waving a dismissive hand. "This is just the encore. The show must go on, and you're all the unwitting stars." Panic escalated. People were clutching each other, eyes wild. They felt trapped, caught in a sick game that they couldn't comprehend. Trent's forehead glistened with sweat as he shouted, "Get back. You're not making any sense." "Oh, but I am," Mark said, his voice smooth like venom. "The accounts, the missing funds, the dead partners, it's all connected. Simple math, my friends. You add greed, subtract morals, and voila. You get me." Rosa shook her head, disbelief rippling through her. "Why would you kill them? What is your endgame?" "The endgame?" He leaned in closer, eyes glittering with fervor. "It's always been about control, Rosa. These mindless sheep," he gestured to the others, "couldn't see the bigger picture. But you," he pointed a finger at her, "you might just have the spark I need." A delivery girl turned whistleblower? Now that's a plot twist. Her heart raced. He wanted her in on it. She sensed his twisted intention, yet couldn't shake the feeling of being played. "I want to be part of your sick schemes," she declared, voice steady despite the tremors inside. But you already are," he sneered. "You think you're in the clear? You opened your mouth widely, now you're a target." Cries erupted as one of the partners, seeking to flee, tried to shove past Mark. But he lunged forward, grabbing the man's collar and slamming him against the wall. "You need to understand something. I'm not just a financial wizard, I'm a savant with the power to ruin lives and twist destinies." Rosa felt a rush of anger and clarity at the same time. Mark was insane. He was a puppet master, but beneath the insanity, there was a truth woven in tight with his lies. If I tell the truth, it'll shine a light on your greed. It'll expose you. Mark laughed, a twisted sound that echoed ominously throughout the room. Then do it. Speak it. But know that shadows linger and not everyone wants to see the light. The question is, are you ready for the consequences? Because I can assure you, the clock is not on your side. Suddenly, the lights flickered again, and an eerie sound crept from the hallway, a siren that began to wail louder, echoing the chaos of the moment. Rosa's mind raced. Could they find a way to escape his clutches? Could they really flick the switch and shine a light on the darkness swirling around them? She stood her ground, adrenaline coursing, heart pounding, before she snapped back with a defiant glare. Let the truth break free then. But as she rallied her courage, the office door creaked open once more, and another figure emerged from the shadows, a face she never expected to see, their eyes glinting with a purpose that sent icy chills down her spine. What now? She thought, her heartbeat sinking with the looming dread. The pieces of the puzzle were coming together in terrifying ways. It wasn't just Mark lurking in the shadows anymore. The night was far from over, and the game it had just begun. The new figure stepped into the dim light, revealing Michelle, the firm's legal advisor, but not the composed advocate everyone had relied on. Her eyes were wide, filled with fear, and her normally immaculate suit was disheveled. There was a wildness to her, as if she had been awakened from a nightmare and had dragged it right into the room with her. Michelle. Rosa gasped, hope clashing with dread. What are you doing here? Rosa, we need to go. No. Michelle's voice quivered, urgency crackling in the air. She didn't even glance at Mark, her focus locked on the door. Are you mad? Mark's voice sliced through the tension, and he straightened, eyes narrowing. You think you can just waltz in here like a knight in shining armor? You're just as trapped as the rest of them. Trapped? Michelle's laughter was strained, almost deranged. You don't get it, do you? I'm the only one with the knowledge to truly escape this mess. What knowledge? Mike asked, searching her face for answers, his brow furrowed with confusion. Knowledge that runs deeper than any of this, deep enough to bury you. Mark, she spat, pointing a trembling finger. You have no idea what you've awakened with your little games. Rosa felt a jolt of recognition. Deep down, a part of her had always sensed Michelle knew more than she revealed, a hidden depth beneath the professional facade. But what do you mean? Before Michelle could answer, there was a deafening crash from outside. The building shook, and the lights flickered again. Former floors of wailing alarms echoed through the walls, melding with the chaos. The air grew heavy, thickening with a sense of impending doom. Great timing. Mark growled, his predatory gaze darting around. You think this is a game, but lives are at stake. They're coming for all of you. Rosa's heart sank as the meaning of those words became clear. The sirens weren't just background noise, they were coming closer. Panic threatened to spiral out of control. We have to stick together, she shouted, willing them to believe her. Together? Mark sneered, his eyes narrowing menacingly. What makes you think I want to be part of your pathetic little plan? This is about survival. You either ally with me or fall victim like the others. What are you talking about? Trent's voice was shaky. The others? What do you mean? The others are gone, mate. Mark threw his hands up in frustration. They're as good as dead. You think this is a comedy? I am your only chance. Rosa felt a cold sweat trickle down her back. You're lying. They can't all be. At that moment, another loud crash rang out, this time from behind Mark, causing him to whirl around. The doorway buckled, and it was clear now that whatever chaos had erupted outside was threatening to breach the thin barrier of safety they clung to. Time's up, Michelle whispered, white-knuckled fists trembling as she stood beside Rosa. We need a plan, but we don't have much time. Mark turned, his cold eyes scanning everyone. I suggest you figure out quickly just who you can trust. Because once those doors go down, there won't be a second chance. Terrified gasps filled the room, and as fear mounted, Rosa caught Michelle's eye. The intensity was suffocating, yet there was a flicker of determination there, as if Michelle could see a path ahead that the others could not. Rosa, Michelle croaked, voice trembling. Your silence could be our salvation. You know what you have to do. But do what? Rosa's mind raced as the weight of that ultimatum landed. The truth was a powerful weapon, but it cut both ways. As the siren screamed and the building shook, she could feel the walls closing in, the stakes becoming terrifyingly clear. Whatever happens next, it all hinges on the truth, she thought, and with that, the door splintered under the pressure of the outside world, and a scream broke through the air, drowning out reason and filling the room with pure chaos. What awaited them on the other side? Would the truth be enough to protect them, or had the night birthed an even darker reality? The door buckled again, the wood splintering as panic flooded the room. A loud crash sent Mark stumbling back, eyes wide, fear etched on his face for the first time. Michelle lunged forward, grabbing Rosa's arm. We have to move, she hissed. The air thickened with the scent of burning metal and desperation. Rosa glanced back at Trent, who now stood frozen, his mouth agape. Trent, come on, she shouted, her heart racing. She could almost hear the clock ticking down, a cruel reminder of their dwindling time. He blinked, breaking free from his trance, and bolted towards them. Mark remained rooted to the spot for a beat longer, wrestling with the weight of his choices. But Rosa's urgency pulled him back. He darted after them, but Michelle pushed ahead. Left. We need to get to the stairwell, Michelle directed, her instincts clear amid the chaos. They fled down the corridor, the oppressive sound of sirens and commotion closing in like a noose. As they ran, flashes of light danced through broken windows, illuming their fearful faces. They skidded to a halt before the door to the stairwell. It looked ordinary, yet dread stretched taut across the space. Rosa pushed through first, instincts screaming. With trembling hands, she grasped the railing, the metal digging into her palm as she surged upwards. The others followed Mark, Trent, and finally Michelle, who glanced over her shoulder apprehensively. We can't look back. Just keep going, she yelled. Every step felt like an eternity, laboring against the weight of uncertainty and the growing sense that something was behind them. The air grew stale, thick with their collective breaths. What do you know, Michelle? What is this truth you've hinted at? Rosa gasped, slowing her pace, clinging to the hope of clarity. Michelle's gaze narrowed, an urgency in her expression. It's tied to all of you. This trap, it's personal, Rosa. Your lives, your secrets, they're the key. What do you mean? Mark barked, frustration brewing in his tone as if he sensed betrayal lurking in her words. Just then, a series of thunderous crashes echoed from below, reverberating through the stairs. The ground shook as they paused, and a stray piece of debris tumbled down, narrowly missing Rosa's foot. I mean, they want to use you. You're pawns in a game far bigger than we realized, Michelle said urgently, sweat glistening at her brow. The others, they had something we didn't, a bargaining chip, and now they're gone. We can't let that happen to us. What do we do with the truth? Trent asked, his voice coiling with fear. What is the point if it gets us killed? Rosa felt it now, the weight of the world pressing down on her. What if it's the only way to save ourselves? She replied, anger flaring as she faced the precarious nature of their survival. The tension hung thick as ice, slicing through their hearts as the distant screech of metal filled the air. They resumed their hasty climb, breathing heavily, the sounds of destruction echoing ever closer. Reaching the next floor, they halted at a small window, global tumult reflected in terror-stricken eyes. We could escape through here, Rosa exclaimed, pushing the window open with all her strength. Fresh air rushed in, chilly against her flushed skin, but they'd have to jump. Are you insane? We could break our legs, Mark shouted, still unwilling to fathom their predicament, but Michelle's fierce gaze pierced through the fear, unleashing a spark of determination. This could be our only chance. We can't wait for the end. We need to trust each other or perish. As the truth loomed like a predator behind them, Rosa took a breath deep enough to swallow her fear and stepped back, her heart racing. The choice weighed on her like a mountain, and the room spun with both dread and possibility. Just as she prepared to leap, she heard a noise rip cutting through the chaos, an overwhelming crack. The floor beneath them quivered, and she realized in that moment the dark conclusion was upon them quicker than she had imagined. What had they awakened? Would their desperate truth save them or damn them? The shattering shadows lurked behind them, and with no time left to think, they jumped. They fell, tumbling through empty air, adrenaline flooding their veins like ice. The world shrank to a blur of sound and sensation, the rush of wind, the thud of each heartbeat echoing in their ears. Rosa hit the ground hard, an unexpected jolt coursing through her body. "Get up!" Michelle's voice rang out, fierce as a drill sergeant. She was already scrambling to her feet, pulling Rosa up by the arm. The dust swirled around them, choking and stinging in their throats. Mark landed beside them, groaning as he rubbed his ankle. "I think I twisted it," he muttered, gritting his teeth, but panic forced him to stand. The world around them loomed large, shadows stretching as they realized they were still inside a building. The chaos of the lower floors roared like a tornado. "There's no time," Trent hissed, eyes darting to the door. "We need to move now." Rosa glanced around, heart pounding painfully. They were in a dimly lit basement, the flickering fluorescent lights casting long shadows across the walls. Metal cans and debris littered the floor, remnants of a life that existed here before whatever nightmare chased them. Her mind raced back to Michelle's warning. What game were they a part of? "Follow me," Michelle urged, grabbing Trent's arm, leading the charge through a narrow corridor. Rosa fell into step behind them, desperation clawing at her insides. Mark limp-hobbled at the rear, and she felt a rush of guilt that he was hurt because of their frantic escape. "Where are we going?" Rosa called out, her voice trembling. "Out!" Michelle shouted, determination blazing in her eyes. There's an exit up ahead. They rounded a corner and were met with a heavy door, rusty and battered. The sight almost made Rosa want to laugh or cry. Who knew where they had ended up, but it felt like an exit to freedom. But then they heard it, a low growl, a sound too human yet too monstrous in nature. What was that? Trent's voice quaked, and they all froze, eyes wide with terror. Rosa felt sick to her stomach. "We have to push through. If we just stand here, then we become targets." Mark finished, his voice tight. "Right?" Michelle snapped, gathering her courage. "On three, we push the door, okay? 1, 2, 3. They shoved together, teeth gritting, hearts racing. The door screeched in protest, but slowly it opened, revealing a flickering neon light beyond an alleyway, the stars barely visible above. Just as they spilled into the cold air, the ground shook again, sending a violent vibration that nearly knocked them off their feet. "Go! Go!" Trent shouted, shoving Rosa forward. But the moment they stepped into the alley, the moonlight revealed their pursuer. A figure emerged from the shadows, cloaked in black, eyes glinting like knives. Rosa's breath hitched. It was a person, or at least it seemed like one until it raised its hand, and a blinding flash erupted. "This way!" Michelle shouted, as a wall of noise crashed towards them, drowning out all rational thought. They dodged to the right, racing past dumpsters and debris, but confusion and fear gripped them like a vice. "What do we do?" Mark yelled, struggling to keep up. Rosa's chest tightened. "We need to," but before she could finish, they turned a corner and skidded to a stop. Ahead, the alley twisted, a dead end loomed. Panic surged through her. What now? A single flicker of hope ignited. "The rooftops," Trent gasped, pointing toward a fire escape. "We climb. It's our only chance." They scrambled toward it, clinging to the edges of chaos, the figure's presence growing heavier behind them. Shouts echoed off the cold walls, but they focused ahead, believing in the fleeting chance of escape. As they reached the ladder, a sense of unity fortified their resolve. Together, they would leap into the unknown. Rosa began climbing, her breath escaping in quick gasps of fear and determination. But above, shadows shifted, and the sound of a heavy door creaking echoed. Hold on tight," Michelle called, urgency piercing the air. Just as they reached the roof's edge, Rosa felt a chill course down her spine, a whisper in the wind that sent shivers through her bones. What if they weren't the only ones escaping? What if others had been lured to this trap too? With a deafening crash, the door burst open below, and the figure stepped out, a silhouette against the blaring chaos. Ready to pounce. As they heaved themselves onto the rooftop, Rosa risked one last glance back. What she saw twisted something deep within her, a glimpse of the true dimensions of the game they were trapped in, and the revelation protruded like a thorn. Whatever is happening here, it's about to get worse, Rosa whispered to herself, her heart racing as they surveyed the vast, sprawling city below. What lay ahead? Who else was entangled in this deadly game? As the figure's twisted laughter resonated behind them, she knew their journey was far from over. Rosa took a shaky breath, her heart hammering in her chest as she took stock of their new perch. The wind whipped at her hair and the icy air cut like glass, but the adrenaline pulsed in her veins, drowning out the cold. The view was dizzying, a panorama of rooftops, each shadow cast in darkness, but now there were sounds from behind. The figure had not yet made its move, but they could feel the hunt was only just beginning. "We can't stay here," Michelle yelled, scanning the rooftops for any sign of escape routes. "If that thing don't say it," Mark interjected, wincing as he tried to find a stable footing. "We just gotta think. We need a plan." Trent stepped to the edge of the roof, peering into the alley they had just fled from, his face pale. "There's no way down that isn't death sentence. We have to go across." "You mean jump?" Rosa gasped, shot through with fear. The height seemed more immense now that they had to make a choice: jump across or stay and risk the predator lurking down below. "Across," Trent insisted. "It's either that or—" The whisper of the wind carried a distant howl, a reminder of the malevolence trailing them. It sounded hungry, desperate for their capture. "Listen up," Michelle interrupted, her voice commanding, cutting through the rising tension. "We stick together. One at a time, we jump and help each other to the next rooftop." "Fine. But if we fall," Mark began, his voice trailing off into silence. Rosa took a breath, steeling herself. "We won't fall," she said. But the tremor betrayed her, a quiver of doubt. "Who goes first?" Trent asked, glancing around at the group. He was trying to sound brave, but the tension hung thick in the air. "I'll go," Michelle said, stepping forward. "You all watch my back." She ducked her head, crouched low, and readied herself for the leap. "Wait. You can't just rush," Rosa protested, but Michelle shot her a fierce look. "I'm not letting that thing get any closer. This is our only choice." And with that, she sprang forward, launching herself across the gap. Time slowed for Rosa as she watched Michelle fly through the air, arms outstretched, graceful yet teetering on the edge of disaster. She landed hard on the opposite rooftop, stumbling but regaining her balance. A sigh of relief slipped from everyone's lips. "See? Easy," Michelle called back, all bravado. "Okay, go next." Trent motioned, following Michelle's lead. He took off, soaring across the void with more confidence, landing even more smoothly. Rosa felt a mix of fear and determination well up inside her. She couldn't let them down. "Not now." "Mark," she urged, her heart racing. "You can do it. It's just a jump." Mark eyed the distance. "I don't know if trust me. Just focus on us." She gestured toward the roof where Michelle beckoned, a lifeline, anything but the creaturesque gaze fixed on the fleeing trio behind them. Rosa summoned every ounce of courage. She took a running start, feeling the wind rush past her face, and jumped. Time swallowed her whole. She landed hard, but not alone. Trent was there, his hands gripping her arms as he helped her steady. "Go, Mark. Now!" They yelled in unison. With a burst of adrenaline, Mark leapt, but the ground began to shake violently beneath their feet. The city groaned, and the vision of falling bricks and shattered glass loomed large. "Now!" Michelle screamed, pointing toward a nearby building that seemed only a few feet away. "Keep moving." The rumble intensified. Mark stumbled, losing his footing as the ledge cracked. Rosa lunged, but her hands slipped, grabbing for air. His eyes bulged with fear as he began to fall backwards. "No!" Rosa screamed, reaching out again, desperate. At that moment, a grating sound shattered the urgency. A monstrous growl exploded from within the darkness below, like a ravenous beast finally unleashed. Rosa's heart pounded. We have to go. But they all turned, their collective dread mounting as the figure stepped into the moonlight, its features sharpening into a gleeful yet malicious sneer, eyes burning with a fervor that promised annihilation. What do we do? Trent stammered, staring into the void. Now, the roof flickered with flashes of light as the creature raised its hand. Rosa felt the fabric of reality shift, a clawing sensation prickling at her skin. Stay close. Don't look back. But as they prepared to bolt, her eyes wandered, drawn to the sinister figure grinning at them. Something about it reminded her of a twisted game, and she realized they were not merely running, they were part of a larger trap. And somewhere deep inside, she felt the shadow of a horrific truth fold around her heart. Are you ready for the real game to begin? It taunted, voice dripping with sinister glee. As the horrific laugh echoed into the night, the urgency of their escape intensified. Could they survive this nightmarish reality long enough to uncover the truth behind their pursuer? They were running out of time. Will they manage to face the darkness, or will they be consumed by the shadows? Heart racing, the group hung on the edge of chaos. The creature's voice reverberated, an ominous echo of doom and games. Rosa could feel her stomach knot as she tried to make sense of their predicament. What does it want from us? She whispered, more to herself than anyone else. No time. We need to move. Michelle urged, gripping Trent's arm, pulling him toward the nearest exit, a sliver of hope in the darkened night. The sound of their feet scuffing against the gravel roof mingled with the howling wind, creating a haunting symphony of desperation. Mark was still teetering on the precipice, eyes bulging with horror. I can't just jump. I can't, panic skewed his voice, and it sent another wave of dread crashing over Rosa. Mark, we need you, she shouted, pushing through the fear welling inside her. Don't look down. Just come back to us. The creature laughed again, the sound dripping with malice, sending chills down Rosa's spine. Time's ticking, little mice. Come play. The night is still young. Each word dripped with an eerie glee that ignited a flame of fury in Rosa's heart. She wouldn't let it win. Not like this. Trent, still hanging on to hope, grabbed Mark's wrist, legs trembling. You can do this. Just trust us, we'll catch you. Mark shared a fleeting glance with Rosa, a mixture of fear and determination flickering in his eyes. Okay, he murmured, inhaling sharply as he stepped back, readying himself. On 3. Trent shouted, his voice strong despite the chaos. 1, 2, that thing is coming for you. It taunted, its voice slithering through the air, dark and twisted. 3. Trent yelled, pushing Mark forward, and Mark sprang into the air, arms flailing like ragged wings. Rosa's heart stopped as she reached out, praying for a miracle. Mark landed precariously, Trent catching him just in time, but the creature let out a furious howl, a sound that shook the very rooftop they clung to. Run! Michelle screamed, racing towards the adjacent building. Without a second thought, they all bolted, the distance between them and their pursuer closing fast. The ground trembled beneath their feet as they rounded a corner. Rosa's lungs burned from the cold air and fear. They didn't stop to glance back. Every instinct screamed to push forward, to escape no matter what. Where do we go now? Mark gasped, his voice trembling like fragile glass. We've got to get down. Michelle pointed toward a fire escape clinging precariously to the side of a nearby building. We can't outsmart it in the open. Trent led the way, skillfully leaping off the edge onto the metal rungs, the escape route creaking under his weight. Hurry up, he urged as he reached the bottom, glancing back up at the others. Rosa hesitated. A glance over her shoulder revealed the creature was closing, dark shadows twisting around it in a dance of malevolence. Come on, she shouted, adrenaline fueling her. She pushed herself onto the escape, following Trent down with Mark behind her, but just as they reached the ground, an ear-splitting crack echoed through the air. The building beside them shuddered like a wounded beast, and bricks crumbled from the top, falling with a terrifying rush. Move. Michelle's voice pierced the panic, and they scrambled forward, hearts throbbing. The streets below were in chaos, lit only by the flickering streetlights. But the safety of the ground came with its own dangers. The alleyways were dark and crushing, filled with shadows that felt alive. Which way? Mark wheezed, glancing around wildly. Left. We need the back streets. Trent pointed, steering the group down a narrow pathway, but as they turned the corner, Rosa stopped in her tracks, ice replacing blood in her veins. A dead end loomed ahead, tall, brick walls trapping them like the game's last desperate move. The creature's laughter echoed, closer now, as it followed in their footsteps. Rosa's chest tightened. They were trapped. What do we do? Before anyone could respond, the air crackled with energy, and the creature stepped forward, a grotesque smile plastered on its face. Welcome to my den, little mice. The real fun is about to start. The shadows flickered. A truth, dark and terrifying, whispered in the air. Will you play, or shall the night claim you? Rosa swallowed hard, the weight of despair heavy as the walls closed in. There was no escape, but maybe, just maybe, there was still a chance. The game was just beginning. Are we ready to outplay this monster? She breathed, the faint flicker of defiance rising within her as the creature's laughter filled the alley once more. Rosa's heart raced, pounding in her chest like a war drum. The creature's sinister grin twisted the air around them into a suffocating blanket of fear. Come play. It taunted again, a sinister melody that dripped with malice. Beyond those towering walls loomed an unyielding darkness, a maze through which they'd never escape. Don't panic, Trent urged, his voice a firm anchor amidst rising chaos. If we're going to outsmart that thing, we need to take control. Control? Mark's voice shook, tinged with disbelief. How do you control a monster? By not letting it think we're cornered. Michelle shot back, eyes darting around. She scanned their surroundings with frantic determination. There has to be a way out. Rosa felt the energy shift in the air, electric, alive. Think. What if we could trick it? She said, surprising herself with a sudden rush of boldness. It thrives on fear. What if we pretend to give up? Pretend? Mark echoed, uncertainty etched on his face. Just listen. Rosa insisted. If we act weak, it'll drop its guard. That's when we strike. The creature still loomed close, and its laughter twisted into a deep growl. Oh, how cute. Do you think you can fool me with your little games? It only makes this more fun. The spark of an idea ignited in Trent's mind. We can create a distraction. Something that'll catch it off guard. He looked at the alley, scanning the ground. We can use whatever we find. Rosa turned, her gaze falling onto the remnants of a shattered beer bottle lying in the shadows. A risky throw, but desperation called for boldness. If I can get close enough, I can throw this. No way, Mark cried, panic surging in his voice. It'll see you. Not if I go quietly. I'll distract it long enough for you guys to slip by. Just be ready. She took a deep breath, steeling herself. Rosa, wait, Mark pleaded, gripping her arm. But the creature's voice broke through, an icy whisper that sent shivers down her spine. Are you planning to play? Let us not waste time. Go! Rosa shouted, her heart pounding like a drum. With a swift motion, she slipped quietly from the shadows and approached the creature, her mind racing. Hey! Over here! She yelled, tossing the bottle to the other side of the alley. The creature turned, its attention diverted just as Rosa had planned. The bottle shattered on the ground, a shower of glass exploding like stars under a dark sky. Nice try. The beast snarled, twisting towards the sound. But you can't fool me. Rosa darted back, her heart hammering in her chest, desperate to regroup with her friends. They were moving, stealthily edging along the darkened wall. She cursed herself for thinking this would work. The trap felt tighter. No, Trent hissed. With the creature's focus still drawn away, the group bolted, racing for the far end of the alley. But just as they neared the exit, a chilling laugh pierced the night, resonating through the air like a storm. Did you really think I'd let you leave so easily? The creature mocked, its eyes narrowing. The real game begins now. Panic surged through Rosa as the ground beneath them shifted, bricks rearranging. The alley walls began to close in, almost as if they were alive, reshaping the path ahead like a living puzzle. Gotta think fast, Michelle cried, her face lit with fear and determination. We can't let it trap us here. Rosa's mind raced, her heart pounding with urgency. There has to be a way out, she shouted, the desperation in her voice palpable. Rosa, Mark cried, you've got to think. You're the one who lit the spark. Right, she whispered, looking at the shadows dancing on the walls. But what if before she could finish, the creature lunged closer, shadow engulfing them as the panic reached a fever pitch. The walls trembled and a faint, flickering glow appeared just ahead like a beacon calling the group, but fear kept them tethered. Rosa, focus, Trent yelled, but the air felt thick and cold, almost suffocating. The only way out is through, she shouted, rallying her thoughts, the realization striking her like lightning. But as she turned back to her friends, their expressions were locked on something beyond her. What is it? She asked, dread creeping through her veins. She then followed their gazes, eyes widening beyond the creature. The shadows began to part, revealing a hidden door, shimmering. Could they dare to hope for escape through that glimmering veil? Do we trust it? Mark breathed, the question hanging heavy in the air as the creature roared behind them, hungry and waiting. Rosa's voice grounded her as she took a step toward the light. We can't stay here. We either take that chance or let it consume us. With barely a moment to think, she made her choice and raced toward the door, calling for the others to follow. But as they sprinted closer, the darkness tightened around them. What would lie on the other side? Would freedom be waiting or a fate worse than their current nightmare? Rosa sprinted forward, heart racing, the echoes of her friends behind her pushing her to keep moving. The shimmering door loomed, brighter than anything they had seen amidst the shadows, the promise of escape. Come on. Hurry, she shouted, urgency spilling from her lips like a prayer. The passage closed in around them, the creature's growl vibrating through their bones, a reminder that time was not on their side. Mark stumbled, nearly losing his footing. I can't, he gasped, panic evident in his wide eyes, anchored by fear. He hesitated, his breath coming in ragged gasps. They couldn't afford to let despair creep in now. Grab my hand, Trent yelled, lunging back to help his friend, helping Mark back on steady ground. We can do this together. With renewed determination, the group moved closer, the brilliant light beckoning like a siren song. The walls trembled, twisted shadows reaching toward them, desperate to drag them back into the abyss. Rosa felt the heat rising behind her, the creature's presence heavy and suffocating. Now, Michelle shouted, eyes blazing with fierce resolve. The urgency in her voice pierced the haze of terror surrounding them, galvanizing them to lean into the moment. Rosa reached the door first, her fingers trembling as she grasped the handle. She turned it with a burst of adrenaline, and the door swung open, revealing a blinding light that washed over them like a tidal wave. Go! Go! She cried, her voice both an order and an intoxicating call to freedom. One by one, they rushed through the door, leaving behind everything that hunted them. The sensation was overwhelming, a rush of wind, the taste of freedom thick on their tongues. They landed in a dazzling light, a world freshly painted with hope, surrounded by a lush forest that whispered promises of safety. Rosa turned back, breath hitching, but only the echoes of their past remained. The creature was gone. Did we make it? Mark panted, eyes wide in disbelief hanging in the air like mist. We did it, Trent exclaimed, an uncontainable wave of relief washing over him. We actually escaped. But as the reality began to settle in, silence draped heavily around them and Rosa's heart started to ache in uncertainty. What happens now? She asked, suddenly struck by the weight of everything they had just fled. Michelle glanced over at her, a hint of solemnity on her face. We face the truth of what we uncovered, she said, her voice steady yet gentle. We've escaped, but this nightmare isn't over. We have to tell the world. Right, Rosa breathed, the fire reigniting inside her chest. They had pieces of the puzzle now, and it was time to connect them, to shine a light on what lay hidden. As shadows danced across the forest canopy, they shared lingering glances filled with fear, determination, and the fragility of their newfound unity. They were alive, and together, they would become a force that would turn the tide against darkness. What do we do next? Mark asked, fear woven into the fabric of the question. We find the truth, Rosa replied, her voice steady. We find those responsible. They need to know they can't harm us anymore. One by one, they nodded, feelings of solidarity flooding their hearts. They had seen the depths of horror, and now they would reach for the heights of truth. The forest around them cascaded with possibilities as they forged their path forward, stepping into the unknown but doing so as a team stronger than ever. As they ventured deeper into the forest, a sense of hope mingled with the air, lifting each step toward the dawn of not just survival, but a mission that would forever change them. The world was waiting, but this time they would meet it head-on, ready to defend their lives and unearth the secrets that had slipped through the cracks of greed. No longer just players in someone else's game, they would write their own story, a story of resilience, empowerment, and the unyielding spirit of truth. In that moment, as shadows retreated behind them and sunlight poured through the trees, Rosa laughed. For the first time in what felt like an eternity, it rang clear, pure, a sound of rebirth echoing through the wilderness. Let us go change the world, she said, the adventure ahead shimmering in their eyes. But before they could tread onward, a square glow of recognition flickered in Rosa's mind, leading her to a hidden pocket of truth. The adventure wouldn't just stop with them, they would ignite a fire that could never be extinguished, shining brightly with the hope of those who came before them and the promise of what could be. And as they stepped into the light, they took the first strides on a road to freedom they had built with unwavering faith. Are you ready to stand by them in this fight? Subscribe immediately to catch their next chapter, to not miss out on the next exclusive stories. Smash that like button now to fuel the algorithm and show your support for their journey. Flood the comment section with your reactions and theories about their next steps. Don't wait even one more second to share this video with 5 friends who need to see how they face the darkness and the truth. This is your moment to stand up and be part of their story. Don't just watch, join the movement.